and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. A long-awaited thoughts on. I know, I've been teasing this thoughts on for a long time, but things kept getting in the way. Something would happen that would make me want to talk about something else, or maybe I want to talk about a different creator. And believe it or not, I was actually planning on canceling the thoughts on here and then doing another creator again. But I decided to not do that instead and actually follow through with this one, because this time I actually put in enough research and effort into this episode. If you're wondering what person that I thought about canceling this episode to talk about was going to be, it would have been a thoughts on Caleb Maupin, because given what just happened to him, I really don't think there would be any other time to do a thoughts on him. But I guess he is gone forever now. I don't know, we'll have to find out. But enough about that. Let's get right into the news. First, coming from Mexico, Mexico's ex-attorney general arrested over the disappearance of 43 students in 2014. Jesus Murillo, held on charges of forced disappearance, torture, and obstruction of justice in notorious Guerrero case. Mexico's former attorney general has been arrested in relation to the disappearance of 43 students in 2014, the most prominent individual held so far in the notorious case that has haunted the country ever since. Jesus Murillo was arrested at his home in Mexico City home on Friday on charge. What? Jesus Murillo, like the way this is worded in the article is weird. Jesus Murillo was arrested at his home in Mexico City home. See, that's the actual way it's worded. But regardless, he was arrested on charges of forced disappearance, torture, and obstruction of justice in the abduction and disappearance of the student teachers in the southwestern state of Guerrero, now seen as a state-sponsored crime. Murillo was taken into an office of the Attorney General and would be moved to a jail in Mexico City, authorities say. Now, this one is a very interesting development. For those who are not abreast of Mexican topics, this was the thing that essentially was the straw that broke the camel's back on getting AMLO elected. Like Boric, his was like the rising transportation fares, which kickstarted like the Chilean thing, like the Chilean constitution battle. But this one was sort of seen as like the straw that broke the camel's back in regards to like the corruption, at least corruption in Mexico. Basically what happened was 43 male students from a teacher's college were abducted and disappeared in Iguala, Guerrero. And allegedly, what happened was that police officers were the ones who did it, who had connections to organized crime in Mexico, because Mexico is well known for their corruption. The story goes that these students, or not specifically these students, but like students from the school, every year would travel on a bus to celebrate, like to do a remembrance of the 1968 Tlatelolco massacre. For those who don't know what that is, that was when the Mexican government killed a bunch of students who were protesting against them. And what happened was that reportedly police officers blockaded the road, and then after that things get a little fuzzy. But what seems to be the common consensus is that police officers took 43 of the students, took the 43 students who were there, and then gave them to a drug cartel named United Warriors, and then United Warriors, or Guerreros Unidos, killed them. And now at first you might think, well, that's kind of weird, but the problem is, it goes deeper, as the mayor of the town they were from, Iguala, named Jose Luis Abarca Velasquez, reportedly told the police officers to do this because they were going to possibly disrupt campaigns that he wanted to do. And he didn't help his case when they were doing investigations, he resigned and fled the country. Well, not the country, the city. But the thing is, the story that was given out, that story, even that has been questioned. And many people wonder, like, how deep does it go? Because some people allege that that the government might have covered up this as well. Like, it might have gone deeper. It might have been, like, federal police officers. It might have been members of the army who did this. And as you can tell, the attorney general, like the former attorney general, was arrested. So clearly, something is up. Like, Animal Evans went so far as to look into the people who were reportedly telling the historical truth and basically trying to figure out, like, what do they know? And things have been coming out showing, obviously, things went deeper than we initially thought. However, I can't wait for the mainstream American media to go, this is bad, AMLO's arresting political opposition. And it's like, it's not his fault that all of his political opposition is corrupt. So anyways, let's move on to the next story. Julian Assange. Assange's lawyers are going to be suing the CIA for alleged spying. Lawyers for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange are suing the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency and its former director Mike Pompeo in a suit filed in a New York District Court on Monday, alleging the agency recorded their conversations and copied data from their phones and computers. The attorneys, along with 2 journalists joining the suit, are Americans and allege that the CIA violated their U.S. constitutional protections for confidential discussions with Assange, who is Australian. Now, what's interesting about this case is that allegedly, this might actually, if this case were to actually be verifiably true, then this could spell some very good news for Assange. As Robert Boyle, the attorney representing the plaintiffs, said, like, if this is true, his right to a fair trial is now tainted, if not destroyed, meaning that there should be sanctions even up to the dismissal of the charges or withdrawal of extradition, basically saying that this is the kingmaker in the case. Like, if this goes through, Assange will at least not be extradited, which any reasonable person who is pro-journalism and pro-whistleblower and pro-freedom, this would be essentially a no-brainer. Free Assange, you know the spiel. Let's move on to the next story. This is a story relevant to North Carolinians. The judge reinstates North Carolina's 20-week abortion ban. In other news, I'm now going into debt buying condoms. Heyo! Abortions in North Carolina are no longer legal after 20 weeks of pregnancy, a federal judge ruled on Wednesday, eroding protections in one of the South's few remaining safe havens of reproductive freedom. U.S. District Judge William Austin reinstated the unenforced 20-week abortion ban with exceptions for urgent medical emergencies after he said the June U.S. Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade erased the legal foundation for his 2019 ruling that placed an injunction on the 1973 state law. His decision defies the recommendations of all named parties in the 2019 case, including doctors, district attorneys, and the Attorney General's office, who earlier this month filed briefs requesting he let the injunction stand. Neither this court, nor the public, nor counsel, nor providers have the right to ignore the rule of law as determined by the Supreme Court, wrote Austin, who was appointed to the court by Republican President George W. Bush. So yeah, to everybody in North Carolina, protection now more than ever. Day after pills more than ever. Not much else for me to say. Let's move on to the next one. This next story is actually kind of interesting because Donald Trump has unveiled 2 more endorsements for the 2022 midterms. The interesting thing is the 2 endorsements he has made are of Democrats. The 2 Democrats that he endorsed are Dan Goldman in New York District 10 and Carolyn Maloney in New York District 12. Now, these 2 endorsements have thrown everybody into a loop because nobody knows how serious or not serious to take his endorsements. I remember when I first saw the endorsement on Mondaire Jones's Twitter, he said Trump is endorsing my opponent, and I'm like, wait, what, really? And then I looked at his Truth Social, and sure enough, yeah, he actually did endorse Dan Goldman in New York District 10. Here's the full endorsement he made. Lawyer Dan Goldman is running in Congress, New York 10, and it is my great honor to strongly endorse him. I do this not because of the fact that he headed up the impeachment committee and lost, but because he was honorable, fair, and highly intelligent. While it was my honor to beat him, and beat him badly, Dan Goldman has a wonderful future ahead. He will be very compassionate and compromising to those within the Republican Party, and will do everything possible to make sure they have a fair chance at winning against the radical left Democrats who he knows are destroying our country. I would like to thank Dan for fighting so hard for America, and for working tirelessly to stop Trump. He was not easy to beat, but winning against him made me realize just how very talented I am. Okay, now here's his endorsement of Carolyn Maloney. A vote for Carolyn Maloney in New York 12 is a vote for the future. She is a kind and wonderful person who has always said terrific things about me and will support me no matter what I do, just as I supported her very early on. She begged for a check with no quid pro quo, and I gave it to her. In fact, I gave her many. On the other hand, Jerry Nadler is likewise a hard-driving man of the people whose energy and attention to detail unlike anyone else in Congress. He is high energy, sharp, quick-witted, and bright. You can't go wrong with either, but Carolyn Maloney is the better man. She will lead our country into a very green and prosperous future. Carolyn has my complete and total endorsement, and she will never let our conservative movement down. Now, you see, it's pretty obvious that he's not really necessarily completely serious in this. I remember Trump doing something similar to this in the past, where he would, make a fake endorsement, but the endorsement would be he would say it in a very sarcastic manner, but it would be tweeted, so of course it wasn't his stupid speech patterns. But here's the thing. The question is, why these two in particular? Why is he specifically trying to endorse these two? Well, you see, the thing is, both of these races are very high profile. New York District 10 has become a very high profile seat because it's an open, Democratic-leaning seat, and New York District 12 is a Democrat v. Democrat incumbent battle, as I mentioned, with Jerry Nadler being against Carolyn Maloney. But why? Why these two? Why is he specifically endorsing Dan Goldman and Carolyn Maloney? Well, basically the only answer I can come up with is that he's trying to push for the weaker candidate. Now, of course, as I stated, there are some people who, when I say weaker candidate, they say, but this is a safe D seat. Both of these are safe blue seats, so what do you mean weaker candidate? When I say weaker, I mean he's trying to push for the ones that he can easily mock more. The ones that are easy targets for Republicans to point and laugh at. But the thing is he saying these guys because he wants them to be the ones that they point and laugh at? Or is he trying to push these guys so that Democrats will then vote for the ones he wants to point and laugh at? I don't know. And we'll have to wait and see how these endorsements pan out for the two races. Speaking of races, there were two races that just so happened to happen recently. Let's see what happened. First we'll start off with the one that's not shocking, Wyoming. Wyoming, very easily put, Liz Cheney lost. It was everybody pointed out that it was very obvious since day one Liz Cheney was going to lose the race. The one funny thing that happened was that Anthony Bouchard didn't win the race. He was the guy who immediately ran as he was going to be the super pro Trump guy. That was what he was planning to do. He was going to be the super pro Trump guy. But then out of the blue, Trump decided to endorse someone else. Harriet Hagerman, which is funny for a number of reasons, because Harriet is actually, she was originally one of the anti-Trumpers, but then now, she basically pulled a Lindsey Graham. Liz Cheney had a huge, she had, a huge tent of people to back her. She had, Dean Phillips, she had Al Franken, she had Mitt Romney, she even had O.J. Simpson back her. A former Democratic governor from Wyoming literally registered as a Republican specifically to vote to keep Liz Cheney in office. But everybody knew, everybody who was endorsing Liz Cheney, Liz Cheney was The only reason that Liz Cheney didn't drop out was just so she could try and spread a message. It's a lose-lose battle. If she drops out, then she just gave Trump the seat. But if she runs, she gives Trump the seat because she was very obviously going to lose. The only reason Liz Cheney ran was so she could say she didn't go down without a fight. And Dems were so into this race specifically because of that, which is weird because the only other member of like the Trump committee, like the people who voted to impeach Trump, if I remember correctly, the only member who voted to impeach Trump that also ran for re-election, the Democrats ran against him hard and bankrolled the Trumpian opponent to him. So it's very like it's clearly a mixed message here. And of course, one of the big things that everybody's been pointing out is like this is clearly just her putting herself forward as the never Trump candidate for 2024. Very much obvious. Anyways, the next race that happened was the Alaska special and normal election. You see, the special election was fully done. Well, not fully done, but the special election isn't fully done yet. It just went through the first round. We're not going to see what happens in the next round until much later. And the primary happened for the November race, so we're going to see what happens there as well. It seems pretty obvious that Palin is probably going to win, but interestingly, in the first round, Mary Sattler Peltola actually managed to get first, followed by Palin and Bekich. But of course, we have to figure out, like, who do the Bekich voters vote for? Because it's very obvious that Bekich isn't going to be the one that makes it to the next round. It's going to be Palin or Peltola. And who do Bekich voters vote for? For the most part, they're probably just going to vote for the Republican, but maybe they're super never Trumpers. We never know. Likely, it's pretty obvious it's probably going to be Palin. But anyways, in the November election, basically the same results that we would expect. The four finalists are Peltola, Palin, Bekich, and Sweeney. Nothing really too out of the ordinary there. With that out of the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. We are going to be talking about Hasan Piker, or Hasan Abi. Hasan Abi is a Turkish left-wing online commentator who got his start online as an intern for his uncle's network. A little-known YouTube network, you probably never heard of them. They're called The Young Turks. And his uncle's name is Cenk Uygur. Sorry, if I knew who he was, I probably would be able to pronounce his name better. Okay, obvious joke out of the way. Yes, Hasan Piker is the nephew of Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. And he was originally from Turkey, and then he immigrated to the United States, and basically, as he said in his interview with Anthony Padilla, like, he I guess, quote-unquote, struggled in America because he was, like, the American dream. But then he came to America and he realized, I don't really have any of the benefits that I had back in my old country. And then Cenk Uygur basically said, hey, why don't you intern for my network? And they said, oh, okay. However, I guess Hasan was a little bit more than an intern because he would basically be brought on to fill in the shoes of another host who wouldn't end up coming on. Like, if, let's say John Idarola was sick that day and Anna wasn't there, or any of the other people who would normally be there were there, like, Hasan would be brought on to fill in the gap. He would basically fill in the shoe of the person who says the radical position. Like, I remember hearing this in like a podcast or something where it's like The Amazing Atheist or something like that, where it's like, basically here's how the Young Turks format works. It's like, they do a news story, the co-host to Cenk or Anna, like usually it's Anna, but sometimes Anna will be in Cenk's seat, but like the co-host will say like an extremely far left position, you know, for liberals, and then Cenk Uygur would basically say, hey, you know, I think this more moderate position, this more like center leftish position would work better, and they'd go, huh, you know what, you're actually right, Cenk. Hasan would basically be able to fill those shoes. And given the fact that Hasan was a socialist and the rest of TYT are basically progressive capitalists, it was an easy role to fill. Eventually, Hasan was given his own show on the TYT network. Remember when the TYT network actually had like a lot of shows and it literally wasn't just Cenk and Anna? A common problem with early YouTube, a lot of people wanted to be the network or the broad like thing. Like they wanted to do multiple things. They couldn't just focus on one thing and be good at that. But with the TYT network, it was good because they would invite other people to join in their network. And Hasan was one of the people there, hosting a TYT Facebook show called The Breakdown, where he would basically critique right-wing videos. I remember seeing one where he critiqued Ben Shapiro. Like it's one of those, like, you know how Facebook and politics stuff works, right? It's just one of those, like, things where, like, person sits in empty white room, top text, bottom text, and the bottom text is usually, like, the words, like the subtitles, and like top text is like what you're supposed to get from the video. It's a thing that kind of persists on most social media platforms. Basically like small digestible content that would be available to people who are just scrolling on their social media feeds. As opposed to TYT, which would be for people who were more interested in just watching a full program. He would end up getting a lot of other shows on the platform. One would be, I don't remember the name of it, but it was basically like a dating pickup thing, like try to get boys to be more manly. Because TYT, for some reason, they didn't just stick with politics. They really wanted to be like a big news network. They wanted to be more than just the politics side of things. But eventually, like, it was pretty obvious, like, it didn't work out. As most of their things that don't revolve around politics are essentially nothing. I remember there was one channel they had called TYT Sports, and it's like, literally none of the content on here is sports related. But the show that I think Hasan would probably be the most proud of would be Agitprop. Because Agitprop would basically allow him to be more than just another member of the Young Turks. Because as I said before, Young Turks were broadly progressive capitalist. Even the most radical shows, like Aggressive Progressives hosted by Jimmy Dore, it was still progressive capitalist. But Agitprop was actually an anti-capitalist show, and Hasan would actually be able to spread his message of anti-capitalism. Cenk even decided to debate him about capitalism versus socialism. However, Hasan, he was obviously probably grateful that he had a job, that he could talk about politics and this kind of stuff. TYT kind of held him back. He could never escape the idea of, like, he's just Cenk Uygur's nephew. That was basically what the online viewpoint of Hasan Piker was. He was Cenk Uygur's nephew, nothing more. He worked at Cenk Uygur's channel. He hosted shows for Cenk Uygur. He basically did the things Cenk Uygur wanted. Like, for example, Facebook. Why would a progressive focus their energy on Facebook of all of the places? It's like a progressive focusing their actions on radio. It's like you're in a losing battle. Well, yes, I guess since you're the only progressive person on, like, a radio channel, then I guess you have no competition for those listeners, but are you really going to get that many listeners to begin with? And the same thing goes with Facebook. It's like Facebook is the right-wing boomer website. That's where the right-wing, like, Karen moms post their anti-vax minion memes. While yes, it's definitely obviously good intention to have, like, to, like, counteract the, like, pithy, small right-wing videos on there with counterpoint left-wing videos. But again, like, are you going to get that many watchers? Or are people just going to see, like, oh, Ben Shapiro. Wait, this person doesn't like Ben Shapiro. Downvote. And another example of this would be his debate with Charlie Kirk at the 2018 Politicon, where the most memorable moment of the debate is when Cenk Uygur interrupts. Go on YouTube, look it up, go to the video, and then you'll see, like, I don't know if it's on every YouTuber's thing yet, but, like, they have these new things where it's like they show you the most replayed parts of a video. Scroll to the last one, click it. What's it gonna be? The most replayed part is the part where Cenk Uygur interrupts Hasan in the debate. Even when Hasan is doing something, the most memorable part is when his uncle intervenes. Clearly, Hasan was stuck under Cenk Uygur's shadow for the most part. That was until he started an independent venture of his, where he decided to go and start streaming on a website called Twitch. Twitch was definitely a website that was more equipped for the modern day political viewpoints. That's where people like Destiny were already pretty prominent. That's where Vosh used to be until he said bad things. It's where the hippy dippy round table was until they stopped being good. But if you want, like, that's the thing, if you wanted to go to young people and get them interested in what you had to say, Twitch and YouTube were the websites to do it on. Twitch was the new one, the one where all the kids were focusing on. As such, that was where Hasan went. Twitch was built for people with somewhat longish attention spans, but also short attention spans. Because with Twitch, it incentivizes you to like get on and leave whenever you want. Come back in 5 hours, and that person you were talking to on Twitch is still going to be there playing a different video game. As such, Hasan decided to go on Twitch and start the Hasanabi channel. And due to his previous experience on online networks, as he was an already established figure thanks to his appearances on the Young Turks, he steadily rose to the top, to the point where he could leave TYT and pursue his Twitch full-time. And now, he is one of, if not the most popular left-wing political personality online. The exact phrasing, I don't remember. Like, it was either that he's like the biggest socialist streamer on Twitch, or he's the biggest lefty YouTube personality, like online personality, period. But essentially, he became a pretty prominent person. Like, he shot up to the point where people, like, I mean, especially considering we have people growing up now. Like, there are people who are getting the voting age now, the age that Hasan Piker would have been targeting when he first started, who have no clue that Hasan Piker is related to Cenk, who have no clue what a TYT is. All they know is Hasanabi. So he's successfully broken off. Like, he hasn't broken it off completely. Like, he's not like, oh, fuck TYT, but he's like definitely not just Cenk Uygur's nephew anymore. At least to a lot of newer people. To people who were around a lot longer, he's probably stuck just being Cenk Uygur's nephew. But some things that don't die are just small things. Like, for example, in sort of the tradition of the Young Turks, he's essentially the dirtbag left. Like I mean, that's the thing. Like, for those who don't know what the dirtbag left is, the dirtbag left is essentially the members of the political left that basically throw out civility politics. You know, they're the lefties that, like, say bad words, the ones that post the memes of, like, Dick Cheney, he's so pro-life, he dies, or something like that. The ones that, like, they don't care about your civility politics, they don't care about decorum, they'll say what they have to say in an edgy manner, and they don't care who they offend. You know, for left-wing political views, of course. I would say that Cenk Uygur was essentially the guy who kickstarted it, because that's kind of how, like, Cenk Uygur was known as. Like, when Cenk Uygur was first around, he was known as, like, the loud, screaming, like, lefty that says very controversial things. And now we're at the point where Cenk Uygur, it's like The Simpsons. Cenk Uygur's like The Simpsons. At one point, it was seen as so controversial that nobody would be like, people would be like, oh my goodness, this is, like, how could this be our decorum in politics? But nowadays, that's nothing. Hasan is absolutely no exception, and we're going to get into at least one of them when I talk more. But given all of the stuff that I've said, and probably if you've seen any of my content, there's a good chance you might be saying, well, then, like, clearly you must be a Hasan fan, right? Absolutely not. Maybe in another world I would have been, but in this world, I definitely am not a Hasan fan. And of course, obviously, we're going to have to get into the reasons why. Now, some of these may be very petty reasons, but that's what the show is about. I'm giving my thoughts on Hasan. If you don't want to see that, you go away. First, I just got to be real. Remember all that talk I was saying about, like, oh, basically there are some people who only see Hasan as Cenk's nephew? Yeah, that's me. I'm calling out myself here. Like I said, how there are a lot of people who are watching Hasan now who have no clue about this. I don't. I knew of Hasan when he was a member of TYT. And the thing was, back at that time, Hasan was notoriously hated for reasons that are both valid and semi-valid. For starters, he was on TYT. Obviously, it's going to get you some hate regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. Some people who are further to the left than TYT, that's think TYT is basically just like some tea-drinking liberals, and some people who are to the right of TYT who think that they're the super radical ones. Obviously, you can probably guess which side of the aisle I was on. Also, the fact that it is pretty obvious that Hasan really only got the job because he was Cenk's nephew. Like let's be real. If he was not Cenk's nephew, he would have never gotten the job. He would have never been on any of these things. I mean, maybe that would have been a happier world, and he could have just started only on Twitch, and I don't know. But he didn't. But he was definitely in a privileged. He definitely the odds were stacked in his favor. Really. I mean, Hasan knows this. Hasan said this in stuff that he's when people interview him. I've seen interviews of him, and he's acknowledges that and it's fine. Yeah, he acknowledges. Yeah, if he were not in that position, if he weren't a rich kid back in Turkey who had a uncle who had a successful news network, he wouldn't be in the position that he is now. He acknowledges this and he accepts this. But yeah, that kind of leads into some personal grievances, which again, petty. That's petty. Especially if you believe that he's even if he came from this background, you might still say, oh, well, at least he's using his show for good. We'll get into that in a little bit. But also the last one of his TYT career was that sadly, like I said, he if he was brought on to show his talents more early on, then maybe he would have had more of a better impact for when people because people didn't like it because he was again, that's what he was, Cenk Uygur's nephew. That's all he was. And due to this, they gave him the most bland show to do, but it didn't really show off his personality. A show that literally anybody could have done, evidenced by the fact that when he stopped doing the breakthrough, they hired someone else to host the show. Now, but many people might say oh, well, that might be avoidable. All this would be fine if he, at the very least, does good with his show. Well, generally, I don't necessarily think so, because of one simple thing. As Hasan is a child of privilege, and a child, a person who was basically handed their opportunities for the most part, or at least these specific opportunities. I'm not saying he hasn't struggled with other opportunities, but in these specific opportunities, he was handed them. Hasan basically fits the archetype of the Starbucks socialist, or the boutique socialist, or the champagne drinking socialist. You know what I'm talking about. The person who wears the fedora, wears the stuff, wears a fancy shirt that's Eat the Rich, or wears the Che Guevara shirt, but then has an iPhone, drives a fancy car, goes to Starbucks every day, that kind of stuff. And well, of course, the stereotype and that whole thing is kind of dumb to begin with. The idea of the socialist that rallies super hard against capitalism and yet basically reaps and exploits all the things that make capitalism are definitely not that hard to see in Hasan. For a person who has a nice MacBook and an iPhone and goes to Starbucks every day, that's one thing, but $2.74 million mansion, that's another thing. Especially when, according to the Twitch leaks, Hasan Piker ranks up to 210, a little under $211,000 in a month. If we were to use the actual number that it says and then multiply that by 12, you get $2,531,352 a year. And in between August 2019 and October 2021, he made $2,810,480. The only reason why I wasn't one of the people that was crying and making a big deal about Hasan buying that rich house is because I already made the assumption the trust fund kid gets rich mansion, obviously. So yeah, Hasan obviously already makes a lot of money, so naturally he wouldn't have any other funding. Oh wait, but he also has a Patreon for one of his side projects, the Fear and podcast. And it looks like Hasan, and I'm only saying this because Hasan is like the one that's listed first, not second. So the assumption would be he is possibly like a more likely to be benefiting from that Patreon. And it already makes $14,853 a month. So doing the math on that, that's $178,236 a year. Add that with the other amount, and he makes a total of $2,709,588 a year. Yeah, that is definitely quite different than just, oh, I have an iPhone. Hasan's making bank. And of course, I know that there are going to be some people who are going to either like make the ironic joke or the actual statement of like, class traders are base. It's like, I thought we were against the rich. Hasan is against the rich. Hasan is the meme. The don't trust anybody, even yourself. But the thing is, like, that'd be well and good if he, like, if at the very least, Hasan was being, like, acting like a socialist with his money. I'm seeing this really weird trend that, I mean, I think Vosh was one of the biggest leaders of this trend, it seems. Like, the ones where it's like, oh, well, it's okay for lefties to be rich. It's like, what do you mean? No. We make jokes about that. Like, lefties make jokes about this. Of, like, the lefty that just decides to become rich. But, like, yeah, anyways, it's like, that'd be well and good. Like, if, like, fine, let's say, hypothetically, Hasan was actually doing his money like a socialist, at the very least. Like, even if he has, like, a little extra, maybe he, like, at the very least, like, he pays his workers, he tries to give to charitable causes and, you know, help people through direct action, donates monies to political candidates that could help push for more socialist messaging and stuff. Oh, wait, he actually has a huge problem with paying people for labor. Take the issue of what happened with Blake, an anonymous user that went by the name Blake. Blake heard that Hasan was looking for a full-time editor, so they talked to Hasan in DMs, point blank saying, like, hey, are you looking for an editor? I'm kind of interested in the position. And Hasan was like, okay, that's really interesting. And as a portfolio, they sent videos to like an unofficial Hasan account. I don't remember the full exact status because it's like, obviously it isn't a bad position. Like, obviously, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think it's a fan account, but it's not like a official Hasan account. Like, Hasan has the official Hasan account, but then there are like other accounts that are like prominent and Hasan promotes and stuff of like clips and stuff. And he basically uploaded videos to that, like sent Hasan those videos and like, hey, look, here's evidence that that I can be a good editor. And Hasan was like, that's really cool. That's awesome. Hey, can you edit this video next? And the Blake's like, okay. Like seeing like, oh, okay, so Hasan's testing me to see if I'm going to be the next editor. Then Hasan says, that's really cool. Can you send editor of this video? All right. Can you do this one? And this one? And this one? And this one? And this went on for quite a while until Blake finally realized, oh wait, I have been Hasan's editing slave for 5 months. They had been editing videos for Hasan for 5 months for free, taking time out of their day when they could have been using that time to get an actual job, you know, use that editing skill to go find another YouTuber who will pay you. And then what was worse is that they asked Hasan point blank, like, am I actually getting the editing job? And then Hasan just ghosted them. And it wasn't until they raised the issue very publicly that Hasan actually addressed it. Where he basically was like, look, people send me things they edited all the time. Okay. Did all of them say they wanted the full-time editing job? Because Blake said it in the DMs. I'll include the links to the DMs in the description. It is very obvious that they were they were talking about the full-time editing job. So clearly, this was their portfolio. But Hasan exploited their labor to keep getting videos made of them and essentially paid them in exposure because he included the link to their Twitter in the description because everybody reads the descriptions, am I right? I literally say this as I just said that I will include the link of Blake's DMs in the description. Oh, the irony. Like, and it's not like Hasan clearly didn't know they wanted the job. Like, they persisted. They kept saying they wanted the job, and then they said, but and they even asked Hasan, like, what specifically would you like to see in an editing position? And Hasan was like, I would really like things that you do, except maybe like some added this and this here and there. And they would send video like this? Oh, this is perfect. It's still no editing job. And the funny thing is, like, Hasan has actually rallied super hard against the whole pay by exposure thing. And now he has literally become the thing he seeks to destroy. And it's like, if this is how he's treating this person, imagine all the ones that haven't come out yet. Imagine all the ones that might be going through the exact same story Blake is going right now. Not just Hasan, through other streamers that don't necessarily have the quote-unquote morals that Hasan has. That's why I'm of the old school mentality of YouTube of you have to edit your own videos, which is apparently such a controversial opinion now. Because, like, nobody edits their own videos on YouTube anymore because YouTube isn't real anymore. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of Hasan's statements. Because, like I said, Hasan is part of the dirtbag left. The one that, like, says some very incendiary comments. And, well, not all of his incendiary comments are met with very much good praise. One of the most controversial ones that I remember was his infamous 9/11 episode, where he critiqued the, like, representative from Texas, Dan Crenshaw, because he got his eye blown out by a soldier in a war, and Hasan made a crude joke about it, saying, like, oh, I'm glad for the Mujahideen soldier that blew out your eye and fucks your eye hole or something. But the bigger one that got more attention was when Hasan Piker said that America deserved a 9/11. Now, the first one is just very obvious crass stuff against a person he doesn't like. But the second one, it sort of deals with something broader in regards to this. But it is still sort of like a crassness, whatever. The 9/11 thing. Now, of course, hearing that will probably give you an instinct reaction. But the thing is, like, Hasan, what he means by that, that's a thing that you might be familiar with another content creator, but what he means by that is that America's actions in the Middle East were what led to 9/11. But of course, in dirtbag left fashion, he has to say in a very incendiary manner. One where the context will of course be lost to people who don't know or care about his broader point. And this sort of nature of dirtbag left politics has kind of led him into getting into a lot of trouble nowadays with the Russia-Ukraine conflict. For those who don't know, Hasan Piker, due to the way he says things and due to the way he words things, many people very much misconstrue or read into what he says as him speaking favorably towards Russia. And one of the things that got him into trouble when he was saying this was when he said that the Crimean annexation was justified, a thing that is really hard to defend, which is why Hasan didn't even defend it. Hasan said that the only reason why he said that was because he was too much caught in the moment. We'll get back to that in a second, but another controversial thing that was brought to my attention that, I think it was kind of mixed. I looked into it, but it's like, I think it wasn't as bad as people said. That's when it was brought to my attention, but I guess, I know, some of the things that were said were bad, obviously. I should probably stop dancing around it and just say it. It was when he reacted to an Adam Something video, where Adam Something was talking bad about a Gravel Institute video that honestly I thought it was pretty good, but I guess it wasn't that good, because it was deleted almost immediately because basically the Gravel Institute video was about the rise of the Ukrainian far right, and Adam Something is this liberal guy who said that they got a ton of information wrong, and Assange is a socialist who reacted to the liberal, reacting to like a socialist interpretation of like a conflict that is happening in Europe. So of course there was a lot of issues that everybody seemed to have with something. From what I remember, the controversy was that the Gravel Institute sort of played up certain elements of how it happened, like They played up America's part in how the Ukrainian far right became a thing, and they played up a specific group that didn't actually have that much power in Ukraine. But Hasan apparently echoed some sentiments that were heavily debunked. Like he said at one point that Ukrainians killed anti-government protesters, or like there was like basically there was an action that happened, and that it was alleged that it was government snipers that were involved by some conspiratorial people. And apparently Hasan echoed that sentiment. There's not much else I can really say on that regard. But you see, the problem is, that's the issue with the Twitch politics sphere in general. Like, I made a whole video about it, but I don't remember if I said it in that video. But like, with the Twitch politics thing, you need to say the most incendiary comment and the most shrunken down interpretation of your views, because it's the only way you're going to get clips of your channel to be spread around. It's the only way you're going to get that kind of stuff around. And of course, people are going to interpret your politics based on what you said in those specific 10-second clips. And of course, when they watch the full thing, like, they're not going to watch the full thing where you gave your entire thoughts on the Ukrainian conflict, and at the end you came up with the conclusion, Ukraine good, Russia bad. But they're going to listen to the one part where you said, okay, well, Russia said this one small action that Russia did was justified, or something like that. And since it's live, you literally have to just say it as fast as you can, and you don't really have any time to look over your things. Like, it's like it's like this podcast, but different. You see, because, like, as you can tell, sometimes I ramble, sometimes I say like a lot, but I have a general consensus that I have written down, at least for these ones. Like, for podcasts, it's different. You know, I try to go a little bit more off the cuff. But with streamers, they don't even do that. They literally get on the end. That's their whole thing. A lot of them don't even prepare properly for content. But anyways, I guess we can move on to this thing, because I have no segue to go into this topic. But this segues into the last thing, so of course I gotta... And plus, why am I not going to talk about this? So Hasan posted a tweet that showed the CEO of Delta suggesting the CDC cut quarantine time for breakthrough cases. And then the next thing he showed was the CDC doing just that. Basically, he was like implying like, oh, the CDC is clearly listening to these corporations on how to handle the COVID pandemic. And a lot of people got mad at that. Now, my personal take is that I get the sentiment that he was trying to point out. Because yes, like, that's the thing about the COVID pandemic. Everybody at the top had a hand in the pot of like how to handle the COVID pandemic. The rich, like the politician class, they had agendas for their specific thing. The doctors were explaining like what to do because of their medical expertise. Corporations, of course, wanted to do things that wouldn't hurt their bottom dollar, etc., etc. Sometimes it just so happens that the actual data overlaps with what one of the things wants. But sometimes you can tell that there's definitely like a certain edge sometimes to push, like, get COVID done faster. I don't remember if this was early. This was later in the pandemic, so like I think this was like when Biden was trying to be like, okay, pandemic over, let's go home now. Or if it genuinely was around the time where it's like, okay, we can actually ease up on COVID. Like, did we get to a point where COVID is manageable, so now corporations don't have to worry about people dying as much? Either way, Hasan was definitely trying to make a point here. But one of the people that ended up getting mad at him for saying this was a YouTuber by the name of TooMad. Now, for those of you who have no clue who TooMad is a YouTuber in the tradition of Filthy Frank, iDubbbz, and Max Mofo. And if you don't know who any of those people are, well, you're going to be completely lost. Here's basically the summary of all four of them. Edgy and off the walls. They make fun of everything. Make funny noises, funny voices, edgy off the wall humors. Like TooMad, he made a video where like he walked around in like a rice hat and was making jokes about him hanging out with a squid, like Squid Game. TooMad would go around passing around like N-word passes. Don't worry, he's black. And for other creators, we had like Filthy Frank, who's well known for like making fun of everybody on the internet, and iDubbbz, who used to make videos debunking about like very prominent creators. Like these guys used to be like the kings of YouTube, but of course, thanks to the demonetization, a lot of them have essentially faded from existence. Filthy Frank now goes by Joji and makes music. iDubbbz has essentially given up a lot of his mainstream internet fame, and Max Mofo, he's still around, but like humor's definitely like edged down a little bit. It's not as edgy anymore. Two Mads essentially tried to take up their mantle. But the interesting thing about Two Mad was that he's actually, for some reason, I don't know why, he actually was a lot more open in regards to his political views than any of those other people. Like, most of them would have generally went with the whole, like, oh, I'm a dumb person, I don't really know much about politics. But Two Mad, like, he says that, but then also gives his takes on politics. Like, he did a whole stream where he took the political compass test. And he was pretty open with what he said. He was like in the left libertarian square, and then it was like, he said something like he's quoted as saying that liberals are smart people. Although one small thing is that he didn't show his abortion answer in his political compass quiz. Like, he specifically tried to skip the question, and then when he wasn't allowed to skip the question, he full screened it so that he would only be seen and not the answer, and then gave it privately. So, I'm not going to put answers in his mouth, but I'm just saying, if he wasn't comfortable showing his abortion answer on stream, there's a good chance we know what it is. Though, to be fair, I guess I could be wrong. But anyways, Two Mad was explaining that the government changes decisions all the time, and that Hasan was basically doing what Trump voters did early on in the pandemic. Which, technically is true. Like, they were saying, like, it was a plandemic and that it was only going to benefit large corporations. Like, it was going to bring back the new world order or something like that. But, like, of course, it's definitely, like, even if that's the case, like, even if, like, people like liberals or lefties who are, like, more hesitant to open with COVID, even if they're being, like, a little conspiratorial, isn't it, like, technically better to be conspiratorial in that way of, like, let's keep the masks on, let's stay under quarantine? Like, wouldn't it be more, like, isn't being conspiratorial to help people and not kill people be better? But anyways, like, Hasan was mad at this, and then he was like him and Two Mad were arguing with each other. Two Mad was, like, saying, like, stuff, and then other people were getting involved, like H3H3, and Hasan basically, like, saying, like, he was, like, Destiny was basically controlling his account or parroting him. And basically, at one point, both of them at one point talked about a debate with each other. And Hasan said Two Mad begged him to be on stream 10 times, and he never showed up to the debate. But in reality, Two Mad was waiting for Hasan the whole time, but Hasan was reacting to MasterChef. And he banned any mention of Two Mad in the chat. Speaking of that seems to be one of the biggest problems that we have with Hasan. Reaction videos. You see, reaction videos, for those who don't know, is incredibly low effort content. It's where you sit down and you watch a video, you watch someone else's video, and you react to it. Now, of course, as I mentioned this before in my Twitch politics episode, but again, reaction videos can be done in quite a variety of ways. They can be done in an editing manner to only show the best parts of the video. You could literally just show your reaction to the video and not the video itself. Back in the skeptic days, people used to, like, play segments of a video and then respond to that segment, and then play more segments of the video and then respond to that segment, but that wasn't necessarily fair. YouTube reviewers, like the Nostalgia Critic, used to do it where they would act like they were watching the movie, but they would basically give commentary about specific aspects of it. But the reaction videos that ended up becoming the most prevalent on YouTube for a while were the YouTube videos where you would sit down, completely watch a video uninterrupted. At most, you make, like, a sly joke or something like that. And usually, if anything, like people try to give their thoughts on the beginning or the end. If you're lucky, you'll get someone who pauses the video frequently to give commentary, which makes the video longer. But most YouTubers were united in saying that reaction channels like that were stupid and nobody liked them. And then they made a comeback when Twitch streamers became prevalent, because Twitch streamers, as I said, they have to fill a lot of time, and in order to fill that time, they have to react to videos. And Hasan usually does that as well. Now with most, like I said, like with the skeptic channels, that's what they used to do with like the segment by segment, and that sort of evolved with Twitch streamers. Now usually it'll be like Ben Shapiro makes a video, and then Hasan will react to it and like debunk arguments that Ben Shapiro makes. That's a usual common one that happens, but sometimes Hasan will just want to watch something else. Maybe he wants to watch some good video essay that was very prevalent. Sometimes he'll watch episodes of a TV show. And when I say watch, I usually am putting air quotes, because Hasan does it in like one of the worst manners. A lot of the times, he doesn't even react, and it's not even like the whole like, oh, they just sit there and stare at the screen. No, I mean, there are times where Hasan will literally get up from stream and leave while the video plays uninterrupted, which gets him into a hefty amount of trouble. When he does that to MasterChef, he'll get banned from Twitch. When he does it to smaller creators, he won't get banned from Twitch, but they'll get mad, obviously, and then he'll block them, as what he did with JXE. And then he'll also smear them and call them a Nazi. And I remember I saw like Hasan made a response, like explain like why he does it, and it's like, bro, I'm doing it to entertain my fans. I'll leave the video playing, and so my fans can watch the video. And it's like, if you want your fans to watch the video, just tell them to watch the video. It'll probably help them watch the video more. Because it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like reactors say, oh, we want to help boost these creators. But then it's like, but you watched the entire video, thus disincentivizing the people to watch that video. So why would they go watch the video then? But then you're also saying you're trying to provide content, but then you're commentating on that video and talking over it, ergo not giving them the full experience. Like, sure, I guess 5 minutes of watching some, like, hour-long video essay, I guess your fan likes watching that before they get to the part where you keep, like, talking over and pausing over and being confused about what's going on. It's because you were gone for the first 5 minutes. I would absolutely love if Hasan was watching this video and then let this segment play uninterrupted, just proving my point. And, like, the thing is, they keep trying to say, like, oh, it's no big deal. It's not a big deal, but it's like, look up a video called Hasan Piker Man of Steel. That's steel as in thievery. It's a 56-minute compilation of him doing just this. And the worst part is, at the very least, the first one is sped up, meaning 56 minutes is a shortened version of this happening. I've been making this very noticeable very recently. Like, I've been loading low-effort content. I've been going after, like, a ton of low-effort content recently, and I didn't think that this was going to be in the same trend, but I guess it is. First it was ratios, then it was Twitter parody accounts, then it was reaction videos. What's next? We'll find out. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to notify when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles on Independent Political Report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.